Welcome to Networking Knowledge. Join Dave Plunkett, founder at Collaboration Junkie and Partnerships and Referrals Strategy Guru, and Paul the Banksy of LinkedIn, founder at Javelin Content and co-founder at Marketing Help Desk, as they discuss networking in real life, what it is, how to do it well, and share their incredible expertise. This is real life networking. Stop. It's hammer time, damn it.
You know, when I first created that intro, I thought maybe I'd gone too far with a stop. It's hammer time, damn it. And do you know what? Every time we do this, just I live for that moment where that plays out, and I watch your face in the bottom corner, Dave, and I just know it puts a big smile on your face every time it plays. I'm so pleased I did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome back, everyone, to Networking Knowledge Unleashed. It's been a little while since we've done one, Dave. I know you made a guest appearance as like a co-sponsored thing on our Marketing Help Desk podcast, so we've had you out on there. But it's good to be running another one of these live shows again and getting everybody back into conversations.
Absolutely. I'm good. Busy, but good busy. I'm another year older, no less wiser since our last one of these. But things are good.
Mate.
Oh, thank you.
Happy birthday. I assume you've had a chance to recover and rest since the big event, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had a week off, which was lovely. But there we go.
Fantastic. Awesome. All right. And today's episode is going to be around partnerships. And there's a lot of ground to cover in there. We're certainly not going to try and cover all of it in 20, 25 minutes, but there are definitely some points that we want to pick out that are a struggle for everyone, that everybody wants to know more about. It's in everybody's head, I'm sure it seems like a pretty simple thing, setting up a partnership. And actually it's really, it can be, but people make it a lot more complex than it needs to be, Dave. That's something I've seen working through your coursework.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if people want to know the real nuts and bolts of how to build out a partner program, then come on to one of my webinars where we do all that. What I wanted to really linking it in with the networking knowledge piece today is how you can how partnerships can just really work well when you are networking. So yes, we need to know who a good partner is, but I thought we could do that in the context of building and growing a network. But then once you've got them, how do you actually do that? And then, but also then why your network is like your superpower in terms of building out and finding partners as well. So yeah, for people that want the nuts and bolts, obviously you know I do that content regularly, but I wanted to keep this about how you can really, and there's some direct benefits, and then there's some kind of subtler, below the line brand benefits that come from kind of this partnership focus when you're doing your networking as well. So hopefully that's of use to people. And as ever, like let's get people's questions in the chat, right? That's normally your bit. I'm stealing your thunder here. Like we do this live for a reason, and it's so that we can engage with you, the wonderful audience. So sling your comments in the chat. Anything that me and Paul can answer, we'll do so.
Yeah. So, and if you're looking at wherever you're watching us, if you're wondering how you do that, it's just a case of putting it in the comments below the video feed, wherever we're live. So we're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. Doesn't matter where you are, we're everywhere.
Well, I'm laughing because a northern accent comes out more than ever when you say Facebook. I mean, I can't say it again.
Facebook.
Oh, Facebook. No, you've done it. You've gone back kind of middle of the road again. Yeah, there you go. Facebook.
Yeah, it's funny. I got really angry about something to one of my friends yesterday, and he was laughing down the phone at me. He was like, "Why are you laughing at me?" He was like, "Well, because you got really passionate about that there, and you sounded like a real pit yacker for a couple of moments." Like,
right.
Right, Dave. Where are we starting today? Partnerships. What are we looking at first?
Well, you know what? Let's start with who's a good partner for you, right? And Paul, you know, most of the work that I do is around lead gen partners and who's going to be able to actually provide you qualified leads. But I want to broaden it out slightly, and there's some rules that are going to go over both. But I want to broaden it out slightly today in terms of networking and about growing your network, because there are people who can be great partners for you in terms of you've got similar networks, but potentially they're not ever really going to pass you that many leads. And that's because if what you do is too well aligned, this happens quite a lot in the coaching and consultancy space. If what you do is too close, then while you might not be direct competition, you are competing for people's budgets. And in that instance, look, I've got to do a LinkedIn post on this thing, but our inbuilt survival genes, right? They're at a high level, and that's because when mankind first originated, half the stuff on the planet wanted to kill us. Half the stuff you picked off the ground would kill you as well. So there's this heightened level of fear, right? And that gene is lazy now because it doesn't have those we're in such a safe environment now. And so if someone's concerned that, I call it eating, you can steal their lunch. If someone's concerned that actually they introduce you to a client, said client is going to not need their services, they're not going to do it, even if that's a subconscious thing. But that doesn't mean that those people aren't good partners for you, because they have an audience who aren't their clients, and you have an audience who aren't your clients. And so they can still be really good partners for expanding your network.
We had this exact conversation between us, Dave, didn't we? We had a guy who we were going to be working with. We knew that he had a limited budget, and there was a lot of conversations going on behind the scenes around how we could make sure that neither of us stole the entire budget, but that the guy got the support that he needed at the same time. So yeah. I do believe that there's a possibility, even if you've got that potential conflict, that potential budget sharing issue, if you're good enough partners with the person, you can pick up the phone and talk to them. You can be strategic about how you approach the opportunity so that everybody wins. And I think that's the important thing. It's not about you. It's not about me. It is about the client, absolutely. But it's about how you come together to work together for the better of the long-term relationship. And I think people lose sight of the long-term as well.
Yeah, and I would completely agree with that. But we know each other well, so we trust each other. It involves a removal of egos and a removal of everything else. And so while I would completely agree with that, for the purposes today, I thought it'd be good to look at where there are people that you can do stuff like this. You can do joint content. You can expose each other to each other's audiences, right? Yeah. Because people are much more willing to do that, because what percentage of your audience is actually your client base? Probably pretty small, right? Yeah. And so there's a willing to do that. And so I think there's a few key things here. Matching audience, first and foremost, right? Now, the interesting thing is if you're looking for lead gen partners, you want it to be a really close match. So it's not just accountants, it's the position within the accountancy. The accountant needs to be the same sort of size. Like, you want it to be a really, really close match. Whereas content shares, though, maybe not quite so specific, because you might be, someone's on the last cohort of my partner program that you were on, Paul, right? He's done some joint content with someone who typically deals with slightly larger businesses than he does on certain stuff, because it meant that there was each of them have audiences that fit outside of their target client demographic. And so it was adding value to both. But the first and foremost is there needs to be a matching audience, the right type of business, the right position in business, the right outlook, right? You then need to have a shared values, right? The way that you believe your customers and your audience should be treated, and the way that you serve them should be a match, because otherwise there's going to be a disconnect. And I would say the other thing,
I'd like to think that we're covering this right now. Thanks for the comments, Sahi. Really.
Yeah, I was going to say that's segueing beautifully. Good. So
he asked this before we started talking about it.
So nice! I love that.
Mind, Sahi. Thank you.
Yeah. So absolutely that audience match and that congruence of conversation. But then values, yeah, how, what, and looking at what the outcome is. And a really great way of talking about figuring out someone's values, other than just gut feel, is asking what the purpose of doing the joint project is, because someone's response to that will very much tell you about what they're really looking to gain from it and their approach to it. And then outside of that, particularly if you're looking at kind of content partnerships and expanding network, is do you like the person, right? Like, are you going to enjoy doing some stuff together? Because life is too short to do stuff that we don't really enjoy unless we absolutely have to. We're here for a good time, not a long time. And so I think, yes, you obviously need matching audience, but is there a match in values, and are you going to enjoy working together? It's one of the reasons why we do this, Paul, right? It's because our audiences, we do at least a segment of our audiences that we serve are similar, and we enjoy doing this stuff. And we have the same reason for doing it, which is we just want to give value, right? We know that sometime at some point that value is going to come around. So all three of those boxes are neatly ticked, which is why I think our audience will be the judge of that. This stuff works.
Well, I think it's also fun, right? Like I do a lot of video content for myself, and I put a lot of thought into that. And when I write posts, I put a lot of thought into how I can add value to the audience, and I absolutely want this to add value to people as well. But there's less of a commercial pressure on this for me. This is, I wouldn't say it's a hobby, not at all, but it is less about generating business directly, more about helping people get to a point, like helping their awareness of who I am, what I do, and who you are and what you do, and connecting our audiences together.
Yeah, it's brand marketing. It's brand marketing rather than results marketing kind of thing. It's that gentler piece.
That, yes, yeah, exactly that.
And that's fine, but I think it's really important to understand when you're looking at a partnership relationship what type of partnership this is. Is it a referral partnership? And I know you've nicely put my webinar into the link there. If that's your thing, jump on my webinar. We do that in detail. But if you're doing the brand kind of partnership stuff, which is that type of marketing, content sharing, like we're doing here, then that's something different, and you approach it in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the one thing that kind of threw me a little bit, and I don't know, maybe it's just the way my brain works particularly, but I could never get my head around until we started working together more, where I started to question it, why somebody wouldn't be able to recommend my business when I was talking to people who were talking to the right audience but were disconnected from a conversation around what I do. So it's no good me talking to an accountancy who would never touch base on marketing or content or messaging, right? They're having the wrong sorts of conversations with my ideal clients. So yes, they do address the same audience. We do share a lot in common, and it's okay to network and communicate with those people. However, it's never going to be a winning partnership, because for them to talk about my services, it's going to be obvious what they're doing. And likewise for me to talk to my clients about accountancy, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to get my head around that. You've got to be having linked conversations, not the same conversations, but linked, where it's easy. You know, I work with one or two marketing agencies where they do an audit at the beginning. So then it's very easy for that marketing agency to say, oh, well, I noticed that you're not doing much on your social media, so you should talk to Paul. He's our trusted partner on that. That's a linked conversation.
Yeah.
It's not it's not a service that they offer. It's a service that I offer. So it's very non-competitive and very complementary.
Yeah, I had a conversation this morning with a brand strategist, right? So doesn't do logos and all that, does the full deep level purpose, mission, brand strategy piece. Doesn't go into implementation, but stays with the clients to help them find the right people to it. So I'm a perfect lead on for her. I help her client, and hopefully we'll be helping her clients get the practical outputs that great brand work does. And that's where the partner piece links in really nicely. When it comes to kind of content and leveraging partnerships to grow your network, though, essentially it's looking at things like this. It's talking about where can we have conversations that don't feel like, it shouldn't feel like I'm inviting my audience to this so that you can pitch them about video content, right? And it shouldn't feel like you're inviting your audience to this so I can pitch to them, although I have said about coming to my webinar twice today, which I never normally do. But it shouldn't feel like that. It should feel that we're offering value, right? And I think that's the thing with content. It's what can we talk about where it's a genuine linked conversation, but both audiences are going to get value. And sometimes that flexes. So it may seem completely unplanned and unscripted, people, but believe it or not, me and Paul do have maybe one or two WhatsApp messages before this around going, what's going to be the theme? And typically the theme normally sits slightly more with one or the other of us. So today's clearly sits slightly more with me. Last one I think was on video as a superpower, wasn't it? So very much sat more with you. But they're both things we're both still passionate about and can talk about. It's just one of us is more the expert. And I think if you're looking to kind of work with people and do shared content, it's about that. It's about what are each other's audiences interested in, and if you're doing joint content like this, then the links need to be stronger because it needs to be conversational. If you're doing content swaps, for example, like sticking an article on each other's newsletter or whatever it may be, then you still want to make it joined up. So when I have guest spots on my newsletter, I'm like, no, it's not that I need unique content, but the more you can relate it to partnerships, the better. I'm going to give a very specific example before I hand over to you, Paul. I love giving shout outs on this. There's someone called Nicole Martin, who I know, brilliant kind of marketing person, offers loads of value on her free content. And when she did the guest spot on mine, she had some existing content on tracking and measuring and all that good stuff. And then she added a bit in around partner demographics and tracking and monitoring that. So it was perfect. She didn't have to come up from scratch, but she did make it relevant to my audience, which made it feel much more personal, better for me and better for her, right? So I think that's in terms of how you leverage your partners to grow your network, it's about making sure that you're offering value and the right value.
I think the important thing for me is, like, you know what you do, right? Nobody knows better than you what your business is about. And I see too many people trying to be all things to all people, which means that they become bad partners because they're unwilling to. Sorry, 2 seconds. I'll try that again. They're unwilling to help people and pass leads across because there's always that doubt in their mind as to, ooh, I could be doing this. And actually, I actually look for opportunities to turn work away from me because I know that I'm the best at what I do in that box. I know what my box is and I stay in that box, and I know the best people at their boxes all around me. I've got all those boxes filled, and nothing, like, I'm putting a post out tomorrow. I've made 15 referrals this week. Not all to one person. I've done that in the past. But 2 or 3 people to half a dozen different people. And nothing makes me happier than making those referrals out. But they're all becoming partners now because I've made the right referrals out to people regularly. We now have conversations around, whoa, we should be partnering. We should be, because you're putting so much effort my way. Well, how can we take this to the next level? What's the next step for us? And how can we support each other a little bit more? And I think that plays nicely into what you've just said there around, do that joint content, but just make sure that you stay within your box, support your partner in doing the content, and make sure you're comfortable with what the relationship is.
I'm going to give another shout out now to someone who I know is a client of yours and has been one of mine, and that's the wonderful Joe Leach. I know he did a post, which you must have seen, you probably edited it, around people's zone of excellence and their zone of genius, right? And I loved that. I love that phrase, that zone of genius, right? Because that's a space we want to operate in, right? So if you've got your zone of, yeah, I could probably do that. Well, find a partner to kind of do that stuff. You operate in your zone of genius because it's more enjoyable, more impactful, more, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a question here from James Dawes as well. It's a little bit different. Like, I've not actually been in a partnership where I've needed a budget, if I'm fair. So there's definitely one for you, Dave. I mean, what's your thoughts on how that works?
Okay, PCA tips on filling a budget between partners. Oh, I see what you mean. Right. So right. There is openness and honesty, James. That's the only way you can do it. I'm reading this question as, for example, you were going to refer me in, and there's a conversation around to a client that was going to become a joint client. So how do you know how much money they've got? I think first and foremost, when you're finding your partners, and if we're doing kind of leads rather than content, at content level, it doesn't make a difference what people's price points are as long as the audiences are right. If you're looking at partners that you're going to refer to or be referred by consistently, then your ideal partners are people who know their worth as much as you do, because they're working with the right level of business that has the right level of budget. So there is a selection piece at the start here around where you sit in the spectrum of what you do in terms of pricing. Because if you're a premium offering, partnering with someone who goes in more at budget pricing, there's going to be a mismatch in that handover. So once you've got that bit in place, openness and honesty. because how else can you? Your partner should want to get you in and doing the work with the client because they know it's going to add value. You should want to do the work, but equally you need to respect, each party needs to respect their own. There's respecting your own price point, and then there's respecting the client's budget. I had a conversation very recently around this, where I do group programs and I do one-to-one work, and the price points are very different. But the group work wasn't appropriate for the person, but my typical one-to-one price point wasn't either. But because of the partnership nature, the work's going to be slightly different. I know they're coming with a load of stuff done that I normally do, and so actually, and there's no cost of sale either. It's someone handing it over. So actually, you can have an open, honest conversation around where I could trim this bit out and I could do this, and then you come up, and then it either works or it doesn't, and sometimes it just won't work, and that's fine, right? But
yeah, I think the other thing is you've got to consider, like, I find the best partners are either upstream or downstream from me, rather than sitting at the same level. So I tend to lead after people who do brand and messaging. Right, they're a great upstream partner for me because they have to be done first, really. Or content strategy is another good one. Like, they're all upstream from me. Clients generally, once they've got those in place, if they're serious about their business, they've done those things. So those people with those leads are, well, what's next for me? Now I've got my brand in place, I've got my content strategy in place. Who can help me with doing that? Oh, they come down to me. That's natural, and it's not a conflict of budgets. That's a really nice fit. Likewise, I've got people who after me, right, okay, well, I've got all this work done. Now I need a website. Oh, well, that's a different conversation, and anybody who's going to go for a website knows they need a separate budget for that anyway. It's not like it's going to conflict with mine. So they're the best types of partnerships, but there are, you're right, that where you're like, and me and you tend to come at that at the same place as well. Like, people will be at the same place where they want to start getting more attention on social media, but they also want to be doing more networking and creating partnerships, and how do the two play together? So we do conflict on budget sometimes. To your point, it's just an open and honest chat. Like, and sometimes, I'll be honest, James, you've just got to say, do you know what? It feels like they need to be with you first. If it's the right thing for the client, turn them away to the right person first, because the client will always come back to you as a thank you. 9 times out of 10, they come back and go, right, I've done that bit now. I've got started with that and where I need to be. And actually, I really value the fact that you turned me away to get that done right. And it was the right thing for me. So I respect that. And now I want to come back and I want to work with you. And how can we work together? So actually just turning them away sometimes for the right reasons builds that trust with the client, builds them as a champion.
Oh, so you read that question differently to me, but he gave an equally good answer. And I've done that before. One of my amazing clients, Rod, Executive Surf, needed his branding doing before he did his partnership stuff. So I referred him into the equally wonderful Emma Humphrey, and then it came back round. And so it does genuinely work. It does genuinely work, that whole kind of value chain piece. So
perfect. Glad you enjoyed the point, James. Look, that's what we're here for, right? Is that
yeah.
what we want everybody to be each week? It's not just about me and Dave talk. It's about us answering your questions and getting things off your chest as well. I guess the last thing that we want to cover, because I'm conscious we're coming up to, well, we said 20 minutes for this, we're 23 minutes. Oh, no, done it again. Very lastly, and I think we've already touched on this, is like driving results together. So how can you make sure that your strategies are joined up?
Okay. So that just comes down to openness and honesty. Again, one thing I did want to make sure we covered, though, is I said about how partnership can be a secret sauce in networking. And this is around who you are when you network. So there's a few I'm going to do 3 quick points on this, and I'd love to hear your feedback on it, Paul. So the first thing is, if when you're out networking, whether that's one-to-one on LinkedIn or in actual networking events, we're always networking, right? So when you're out there connecting and communicating with people, if actually sometimes your focus is on looking for partners rather than clients, a few things happen. You're seen as someone who genuinely wants to connect. You're seen as a collaborative person. That may very well suit your brand. But also, it's a much softer way to network, right? Like, you're selling without selling. If you're talking about why you want, Paul, if you're out talking about you're looking for connections to brand strategists because you help their client deliver the next stage of that journey by what you do, that's so much softer, and people are going to want to recommend you to brand strategists because there's no sell involved there. You're not selling to the brand strategist. There's a genuine win-win opportunity.
Yeah.
And so when you're networking, if you're doing that as a strategy, people will be so much more willing to make those connections, and it's just a much softer, gentler conversation. And if people actually do need your direct service, well, they're probably clever enough to know that actually you'd quite happily speak to them about it rather than referrals as well.
Yeah.
So actually looking for partners when you're networking is such a gentle way, and it's double bubble because you're mentioning what you do, but you're not pitching what you do. And so that I just wanted to kind of make sure we got that in before the half-past mark, that it really is. And for most of us, if we want to find partners, they're already within our network or they're once removed from our close network. We can all get access to these people just by looking at what's around us. And that's what LinkedIn's amazing for, looking at connections and things.
One of the most amazing pieces of advice I got around networking, which I always try and move towards, and that is the intentionality that I focus on, is don't try and be the person who knows people. Try and be the person who knows the people that know the people. And it's kind of removing yourself one step from being the person who has to know everyone to, you know, the sorts of partners that people want to work with who will impact on know the people that they want to reach.
Yeah.
And by being that person, you become less busy. You spend less time on networking conversations, but you actually have more of the right networking conversations and are able to help people more frequently, and therefore elevate your networking credibility.
Your impact is it's a compound impact, isn't it? Because it's like to the power of, because you make one introduction, but that one introduction is to the power of 30 because they've got the network of the right people. So yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. All right. Wow, Luke. I don't even know if this will fit on the screen. Wow. So I think the best bit about partnerships has been a single point of contact for customers. Yeah, like, right. So you're creating an ecosystem where you can be that single point of contact. People start to build trust with you, and yeah, you can almost do the selling on behalf of other people. And I think that is a really powerful position to be in, because then people want to reciprocate and kind of come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And nice, that virtuous circle between lots of different partners, and it's really not. It's a pleasant place to be.
Absolutely. Nice to hear from you, Luke. Long time no speak. I talk about value chains quite a lot. Customer value chains. You've got customer with problem over here, solution over here. Maybe we should do it in a circle, but they touch multiple people along that way. And I think the ideal partnership or series of partnerships is where a customer goes from problem to ultimate solution seamlessly, because everyone along that chain has got a similar ethos, similar values, all that sort of stuff, right? And that's when partnerships are working really well. And the person at the far end may not even know the person at the other opposite end, right? Because there's 7 other businesses in between, or 4 or 5 or whatever. But actually the journey is just super smooth because of that, because there's this consistent thing that runs through.
Perfect. Right. Well, we're coming up to the end of the half-hour mark. I think we did well fitting that all in 28 minutes, to be fair. I knew 20 minutes was a bit adventurous, but I thought I'll go for it. If you've enjoyed today's session, our contact details, especially if you're on LinkedIn, our contact details are there. Do reach out to us. We'd love to have a chat. Dave's webinar's there. I'll mention it again. It's coming up. Honestly, I can't recommend it enough. There's going to be a bit of a video at the end, so hang around at the end and I'll explain a little bit about why you should join Dave's webinars. And yeah, drop your questions. Even if you're watching this back and we're not live any longer, drop your questions in the chat. We'd love to have we love engaging with people. That's what this is all about. It's networking, but we're live streaming. Let's do it. Send us your comments. See you next time.
Cheers, everyone.
That'll be, but see you next time.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Paul. This has been Networking Knowledge Unleashed. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We've shared lots of tips today, and now it's our time to shout a little bit about what we each other do. I want to introduce Dave. Dave is a fantastic personality. As you can probably tell, he has bags of energy and positivity, and he helps businesses with their partnerships and referral strategies. He's helped my business massively. I thought I knew it all. I didn't. I went through his course and he radically changed the direction of my business. And I'm already seeing new leads coming into my business from the partners that Dave told me to match up with. So I can't recommend Dave enough. He is a fantastic personality. And if you'd like to know more about how Dave can help you in your business, the details of his next webinar, which will be free, are coming up below in the comments. Make sure you reach out, register, and take part. I promise you it is time well spent.
Thanks, Paul. Now my turn to recommend you, I guess. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking to build your personal brand through video, or you want to do more video, but you're nervous about where to start, or it seems like a faff, then speak to Paul. He is an absolute expert at not only getting the right content from you, but then repurposing it so that the content you do goes such a long way. Speak to this man. He's an absolute legend.